Hello, welcome to a new week. We are starting off cooking in the dark again. I'm gonna do another one of my low bandwidth meals. Basically, it's gonna be hot dogs and craft dinner because I'm an adult and I can make that kind of decision for myself. This is the secret ingredient to everything. Today's Advent tea is vanilla cappuccino. It has some apple, some coffee beans, and some other stuff in it, and it's a black tea. It has my enemy stevia in it, so I can definitely taste that a bit, but I let it steep a little bit longer so you can really taste the apple and the coffee. But ultimately, I'm not sure if it's necessary. Like, it's just sort of like got a sweetness and a sourness plus the coffee bean taste. Like, I don't, and vanilla is more in the scent. It's pretty decent though. And, oh, it's lunch, so I've made myself some butter chicken, and then I also mixed in some broccoli and cauliflower just to have my vegetables. Things are starting off slowly. It's usually sort of more busy at the end of the week than the beginning because I feel like everyone is still like deciding what we're gonna be busy about this week. So it's been nice. I've gotten a chance to poke around some data to get myself more background because it's been so like hit the ground running that I haven't had a chance just yet to like slow down and read through some of the files to see what happened in the past and all of that. So it's been a nice morning. I am maybe 2 inches away from starting the armholes and the yoke for the Marius Sweater, so that should be something that I'll get to tonight. I'm not gonna make big proclamations like last week that I'm gonna finish it by tonight. I'll likely maybe only get to doing the beginning of the color work part. It's probably not going to get anywhere near finished. I did do a bunch of math yesterday to figure out the situation for the Yule, still don't remember the name, the Christmas tree sweater. So I've decided I am essentially going to do the original pattern, but I'm going to regrade it. And then I'm going to add a puff sleeve using the instructions from the Betty and somebody Lodge sweater that I did last year, because it was like a gentle puff, enough to add a detail without being too overly much and, you know, becoming the centerpiece when the tree is the centerpiece. When I say regraded, essentially, ever since I started sewing, I've come to the realization that knitting patterns are not really as nuanced in the way they're graded. So typically for a sewing top, what you would do if you, like me, have a larger bust measurement is to pick a size based on your high bust, and then you would find out from the company. Sometimes they'll provide that number, sometimes they don't, but the company will usually tell you what cup size that they're designing for. Essentially what the cup size means is the difference between your high bust and your full bust. So a lot of sewing companies, for example, will design for a B cup or a C cup. So a B cup would be 2 2 inches difference between your high bust and your full, and then C would be 3, and then, you know, EFG would be plus 1 inch along the way. Because the difference between my high bust and my full bust is 5 inches, typically I have to do a full bust adjustment whenever I am sewing. So I pick the size. So often my high bust size is quite a few sizes smaller than if I picked straight from the sizing chart. So my full bust is 40, what I remember, 47, I think. And then my high bust is like 42. Let's use those numbers because I can't remember the exact. So I would pick size 42, which is usually, let's say, 2 sizes smaller, and then that would fit my shoulders a lot better as well. But then I would increase just in the bust area. In terms of knitting patterns, however, that kind of nuance isn't really there, and essentially what you have is knitting patterns that are graded to no bust size almost. So like, for example, a lot of yokes are actually, most of the sweater patterns that I've encountered have the stitches evenly distributed on the front and the back, which means, like, let's say you're doing a... So anyway, the assumption is that, like, the length of your back would be the same as the length of your front, which is not really true if you have any sort of bust. So, like, if you cut yourself in half, like, you know, the front part pokes out a lot more, the back part doesn't at all. So when you, let's say you have a size 48 sweater and it's divided evenly, it means you have 24 stitches on the front and 24 stitches on the back. And for me, I actually need 24 inches worth of stitches. So, but for me, my front bust, if I measured myself in halves, my front bust is like 27, let's say, and then my back would be 22. So then the ease guide is really off, and sometimes shoulders are really like wide for because they're designing essentially like without any sort of bust adjustment and proportionally upward. So that doesn't really make sense fit-wise for me. So what I've done for the Christmas tree sweater is I essentially picked the size 42 to, or actually 41, so there's a little bit of negative ease for my starting point, because that gets 16-inch shoulders. My shoulders are like 15 and a half, 16, so that ends up being the good size. And then I follow the instructions until the neckline for the 42, and then what I'm going to do is increase up to the 51, and then, but only in the front, and then I'm going to decrease back down to the 42 in the waist, but only in the front as well, because or no, not only in the front, but I'm going to do a much more gentler waist shaping on the back than on the front, because the front you're getting rid of this, like there's a dramatic change right down to your waist, whereas the back is more of a gentle slope. So that is essentially the math that I had done, and then I'm basing it off of like my -2 inches of negative ease. So how I really think of it is, you know, knitwear can stretch kind of 0 to 4 inches more or less comfortably. So whenever you're choosing the size, if your bust difference is within that range, so like 0 to even, I don't know, 4 is a bit pushing it, but if your bust difference is within 2 inches, it's probably fine. So if you started to choose a size based on your high bust, and your full bust is only 2 inches different, it's probably better to pick on your high bust because there is no bust shaping in the majority of knitting patterns. But if you kind of go above that, it's better to, you can get a better fit if you pick on your high bust and then adjust up for your bust instead of picking the larger size that matches your bust measurements. I don't know if that makes sense. I think I said a lot of words that are gonna make future me hate me when I'm transcribing it. So anyway, I guess I'll show you kind of what the shaping actually looks like when I get there. I have all of the math figured out, at least, so that when I cast on, it's just a matter of following the instructions I had written out. But it's kind of hard to, I think, picture what I'm talking about without seeing how the shaping is different. But basically, you know, instead of having like a gentle slope for your shoulder, you kind of have a more jagged, like square, to account for the fact that you kind of have to have more width right here. So, yeah, I'll show you when we get there. I don't know what's going on with the sun right now. I got my order of teas in. So these are the honey black that's from Taiwan, and then the 2 oolongs that are from Taiwan as well. I also got an additional jasmine black pearl, just because I had some points, so I could get an extra one. So this honey black has been my favorite black tea for a while. It has a really strong, it's a very strong black tea, very caffeinated, but it smells amazing. And the scent of the honey really fills up the space when you make it. And I usually just like maybe a bit of milk, but you don't really need sugar because you can really taste the boldness of the honey notes. So that one is delicious. This jasmine oolong, as soon as I opened it, it sort of hit like a nostalgic tear trigger for me. Oh, like it's, you know, when certain smells just bring you back to a different point in your life, and this is definitely the scent of the teas that I had growing up and that my mom would be drinking all of the time, and also just like what you would have at dim sum or something. So it was like a moment for me. And then this one is the Taekwon In. I don't know how you actually pronounce it because I didn't see what these letters are supposed to represent, and they're not like proper pinyin. So anyway, so it's like not clear how that's supposed to be pronounced to me because like that's not how you, there's like actually a system of how you romanize Chinese words, and that's not it, so I don't know how to pronounce that. Ooh, this one is very bold. Like the other one is sort of light and fruity. This one's like definitely a very bold smelling oolong. I'll flip the camera around now and just show you how beautiful these leaves are. I feel super sluggish and sleepy today at work. It's like 2:45 in the afternoon and it snowed yesterday night, so I think I might go outside and frolic for a bit. They usually build a hockey rink here during the winter time, which is kind of scary sometimes when the teenagers come and practice their slap shots. It does sound a little bit like gunshots. It's so loud, but it's fun. I don't know. I'm really bad at skating. I do have some skates, but that could be something I could do this year to get out of the house a little bit. I'm still working, but I'm waiting for an enormous set of data to load. So I'm going to unwrap something that I got on Black Friday. It's a local chocolate shop called Alicia Confections, and they're located here in Ottawa, and they did a mystery box of chocolates for Black Friday. And this is their mystery box. Oops. Ooh. Some chocolate draggy. Guess I'll have to try them to see what they are. Ooh, a bunch of chocolate button type things. And then, oh, these are my favorite. They have these postcard chocolate bars, which you can put a stamp on and mail. So I have gotten a passion fruit white chocolate, a mystery blank one. Doesn't say on it what it is. Oh, another one of these. It just says Cyber Monday, so I don't know what that is. I guess I'll have to find out what all of these are. Ooh, and some kind of powdered sugar situation. I assume those are chocolate and maybe nuts inside. So that's my chocolate box. Can't wait to eat it. Good morning. I am coming to you this morning in the strangest combinations. I've been wearing my vest over this yellow dress, which I think doesn't look that bad together. And I'm having a combination of fruits and garlic bread for breakfast because that's what I had the energy for this morning. And a cup of coffee because I'm feeling more tired than usual, so I thought extra caffeine would be good. I got a lot of work done on my Marius yesterday. This looks so lovely. The contrast between the blue and the white here. So I am very excited. I think there's only one big X motif before I start doing the neck and shoulder shaping, so it's gonna go pretty quick, I think. I'm no longer gonna promise things like, I will finish this tonight, because I think that's unlikely. I think 2 days before, I did the same thing where I just laid on the couch. I started playing this game called Outlanders. So not like the book or TV show, but it's basically like a resource management game where you are like stranded on a deserted island and you have to like build like capacity for food, chop down wood, build buildings to fulfill certain goals. It's kind of silly, but it kind of got the puzzle part of my brain going and like the logistic part of my brain going, so that was kind of fun. And I played it for like the entire evening while watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine as usual. What else did I have to tell you? Oh, I've been watching some very terrible Netflix Christmas movies. Although yesterday I did start one where I was like, I can't keep going. It was called Christmas Catch, and I don't know, the acting was genuinely very bad, and the actors were like good looking in like where they don't even look real, but the acting was just like so awful. And it wasn't even the acting, because I kind of like bad acting, but the script was so barren. So it wasn't even just the delivery, it was that they had like every line that was said didn't feel like it, like they were just like, how do we propel this forward? And it almost looked like they didn't have a script and they were just like, here's an awkward situation, or be awkward in this situation, when it's like clearly people who knew fairly well how to do those things. Like they were like, go flirt badly, and she was like very like exaggeratedly going. And then I'm like, okay, if you were that good looking, there's no way. Yeah. And I always find that frustrating in like TV shows where they like hire ridiculously good looking actors and then get them to like pretend that they don't know that they're good looking, even though in the real world, like that's not how they would have been treated at all. Anyway, but you know, I watched both of the Princess Switches and I love them because they're terrible, but they like kind of acknowledge that they're terrible. Like they seem like all the actors are aware that they're in a terrible movie. Whereas I feel like in this one, it wasn't that, it didn't seem like the actors didn't know that they were in a terrible movie, but it was that they weren't like hamming it up. Like Vanessa Hudgens did the most in Princess Switch 2 with two different kinds of British accents and like a lot of like, and it was hilarious. But this was just like bland bad acting. Like I'm like, at least do something more. Oh, I forgot to add, Vanessa Hudgens cannot really do either British accent well, and it was very hilarious because she would be doing her accent and they would have actual like British people doing proper accents next to her, so the contrast was very stark. But like, I don't know how they kept a straight face because she really was doing a lot. And it was a lot of fun. And I actually also very like her other Christmas movie, The Night Before Christmas, the Night Before Christmas. It was like a time traveling knight goes to the future. Lots of jokes, like fish out of water jokes. I do also like those, what is it, like Christmas Prince? They're not great, but heartwarming. Basically, I am a sucker for Hallmark movies. Good morning, everybody. I worked until midnight yesterday, so I didn't really get another chance to jump back on. I have not had a chance, actually, to look at the advent calendar all week because the past couple of mornings I've just kind of gone straight for coffee and multiple cups of coffee, so I think I'll go back and look and see what I've been missing this week soon. I did get to a pretty good place with my Marius Sweater. I just have to finish this X motif before I start on the neck shaping, and then I'll do like some more gentle neck shaping on the back, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of shoulder shaping, maybe like an inch or so to the shoulders at the end, in addition to so the pattern I think just has you do the neck shaping and it's a straight cast off, but I find it like fits a little bit better if I add some extra short rows, just to round it out. I'm not doing them very like dramatically. They're about like 15 stitches to like 3 inches, so it's like a very it's kind of, they're wide, so I don't think they're super noticeable, but it's just like a little bit of extra to make that go around your shoulders since they're not like 100% straight across. yes, that's pretty much all the updates I have, to be honest. With some of the work that has ramped up, I haven't had enough time to do any sort of crafting, but that's okay. I'm having fun over there. I have a little bit of a craving for breakfast foods, so that's what I'm gonna ponder over, is maybe I should do a delivery from Cora today, because they have some very delicious like potatoes that I've been thinking about for a while. I love potatoes. Okay, I've been delaying ending this week's video because I was hoping to see if it was possible to actually finish this entire thing by Sunday, but it is Sunday morning now and I got much further than I thought. I attached it at the shoulders, did a very satisfying fold over neckband. So I basically knit for, let's say, like 4 inches so that it was like a full turtleneck situation. I folded it down, and when I was binding it off, I picked up a stitch at the same time on the initial like pickup edge. And then the sleeve here, I probably should have switched needles going from the stockinette to the color work, because it's more obvious on the sleeve that there was a slightly different gauge. I'm hoping that it'll just block out. I mean, it fits fairly well. There's just like a little bagginess right there. So it is what it is. I think once it blocks, it won't be as noticeable because it won't be so sharp. Because that's where I had my like magic loop set, so the edges are typically sharper before I wash it, so that's fine. You'll see there are some short rows here. It's not as clean as I wanted it to be, but because the gauge was so like large, there wasn't enough rows where I could get a more subtle looking swoop, so it kind of looks like 3 distinct ladder steps, but it does what I want it to do. So that's fine. Today I just have to knit the second sleeve, so hopefully at the beginning of next week's video I'll be able to show you the finished object photos. So I'm really excited about that. In terms of this week, I didn't really do any of the tea calendar stuff. Honestly, it's been too busy in the, IRL work aspect, so I haven't really slowed down at all. It was a really productive week. I feel like I made a lot of progress on this. I can't really explain much further than this, so I'm really sorry for being vague, but I worked with one of my coworkers to make this really cool like proof of concept for like how to model and project like the timelines required for something like based on a bunch of factors. So it was like basically getting up and running, like predicting the future model, but it was based in Excel only because we just needed to show like the functionalities of how it worked, and we did it in like one single day, but it was a 15-hour day. And then I had to present it the next day, and I found out like 30 minutes beforehand that it was to a bunch of big cheeses, and I was a little bit like, but made it through, and everyone was like really impressed that we had done it in a single day. So that was like a big like pat on my back moment. Overall, pretty good week, and I'll see you next week for a lot more crafting stuff.